Welcome to Get Known, Be Seen Web TV. I'm Trish Springsteen, your host, and I'm delighted to be here. Get Known, Be Seen Web TV is airing every week, and it is designed to allow those people who are taking their 60 seconds of insane courage, want to step up and get known and be seen. They may have a new book, a new product, a new service, just a new message, so they come on to share that. And the other stream of Get Known, Be Seen Web TV is our guests that come on, our guest experts who have got tips, techniques, strategies to help you get out there, get known and be seen. And talking about guest experts, I am delighted to have with us in this particular session, Patty Farmer, all the way from America, USA, America. Hi, Patty.
Hi, Trish. It's so good to be here.
Absolutely delighted to have you. So before we get in having our lovely conversation, just let me share with you a little bit about Patty. Patty Farmer is an award-winning marketing and media strategist, international speaker, podcast host, magazine publisher, and event producer. And that's why you can see why I'm really interested in speaking with her. And works with small business owners, entrepreneurs, and speakers to attract and convert their ideal clients so they can make a big impact in the world and bigger deposits in their bank account. And isn't that something we all would like? Patty believes we all have a message, and her mission is to help them monetize their marketing and leverage the media in a way that creates transformation for both them and their clients while designing a lifestyle they want to live. And that's something that we really need to be looking into. Patty, awesome. Let's have a little bit about your background. We've heard the little nice bio, but let's delve in and find out a little bit more. Who's Patty and how have we got to where you are today?
Oh, that's a good story, right? Yeah. So as you said, I'm in marketing and media, and I've been doing it about 20 years, maybe a little bit more, about 20 years. And I'm really passionate about it because one of the things that I really see that people do is they may work on their marketing, but they kind of do what I like to call spaghetti marketing. A little of this, a little of that. They watch this webinar, they learn from this guru, and then they try to do it themselves. But the reality is marketing isn't what they do, right? And so what happens is they do a little of this and they do a little of this and they don't just monetize. That's probably the thing I hear the most is, Patty, I'm doing all these things and why am I not making more money? So I love to just come in and look at everything they're doing and just really be able to package them in a way that positions them in the marketplace. And I have to tell you, sometimes I look at it and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're sitting on $1 million, right? So it's just kind of exciting and I never get bored and every client's different. And I really love being able to help them to transform for them and their clients.
Awesome. And one of the things I wanted to mention is Patty and I have actually met face to face, which is pretty awesome when you consider Patty's in America and I'm in Australia, and we just happened to have that one serendipity moment where we're in the same space. And I think why I'm highlighting is you should grab opportunities. And I just took an opportunity at that time, contacted Patty and said, look, I'm here. It was in San Diego. I said, I'm here. Are you near me? Can we meet? And this is something that I think people need to be aware of, that if you do that and reach out, you can have opportunities. But you need to be aware of that. And I think that comes on from what Patty was saying about marketing. It's getting known, being seen. It's opening up to opportunities. So what was the biggest thing that you had in your journey that led you to being a podcast host, magazine publisher, and event producer? What steered you to that way?
I would say that the number one thing that steered me was really getting out of my comfort zone and saying yes to myself, because I didn't want to be a speaker in the beginning. I thought to myself, oh, I don't want to wear a soap opera dress, and I've never really been called eloquent before, and I thought I was going to have to be this person, right? But then I realized that it isn't about changing you, because it isn't even about us. It's about the people that we serve. So once I realized that it was about speaking in front of people who needed to hear it the way I say it, then it's really knowing who your tribe is, who your audience is. So once I did that and stepped into that and just pretty much said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. For me, like in the first 2 weeks I did that, I was actually speaking in London. And then I got 3 speaking engagements from that, and I was an international speaker in less than 30 days. So It won't happen that way for everybody, but I had a network. And once I said yes, I just put the word out to my network. It is about connecting, but it's also about optimizing the connections you already have. Because I'm going to tell you, almost everything you want to do, you probably already know those people already.
Awesome. So when we're talking about optimizing, what are some things you can share about optimizing?
Okay, so one of the things that I think is asking the right questions. Because a lot of times, so first of all, here's the number one question that I think people need to get rid of. It's totally old school, is to ask people what they do. I think a better question is to ask people who they serve. Because now it's not about them anymore. Now it's about the people they serve. And do you serve them too? Right? Because it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. And so I think that people don't ask the right questions. And even when they're connecting, I notice that nobody ever says things like, so what's your favorite podcast? What are some podcasts that you'd like to listen to? Where else do you like to network? What are your favorite magazines to read? What events do you like to go to? Those are all opportunities that people that are already in your network, that if they just, it's an easy question, right? And all of a sudden you find other podcasts, you find other events, you find other places to be. So finding out what is working for them is a really easy question. And then if they say, oh, this is what I did. Oh, I would love to be able to do that. Oh, well, I would love to have you be my guest. Or, oh, I would love to make that introduction for you. So it starts first by just asking a question. Because I'm going to tell you, Trish, I can't tell you how many times I'm on the call with someone and I say, I would really love to serve and support you and be able to make some introductions for you. Who would you like me to introduce you to? What is your ask? And they don't even know.
Unbelievable.
Is that crazy? Like they don't even know. And I will literally sometimes have to like walk them through the process and help them come up with an ask. And then they're like, oh, that was really good. Thank you so much. Right. But you should know what it is that your ask is. You should have multiple ones so that when you have a conversation, you know which one makes sense to be able to have that ask. So for me, I always want to serve and support. I run my business on the philosophy of lead with contribution and compensation will follow, but it always starts with contribution. And how you do that is really by the introductions that you make, the connections you can make, which kind of leads into something that really for me that I think is really important about optimizing, which is when you make a connection or do an introduction, tell people why you did it. You know, I've had people that just say, oh, you two are so amazing. You guys just need to meet. And then you're on the phone and you're trying to figure out, well, what did they see that when they were talking to them, they thought they should introduce them to me? You know, kind of put the pieces together and, you know, tell them, oh, I immediately thought of you. Such and such told me this on a conversation. And immediately I thought of you. I see so many possibilities. I can't wait to hear what comes out of this conversation or whatever the case may be. But tell them so they have a start of a conversation. Because what if you have a conversation with somebody, you don't really feel like it really went anywhere. And then 3 days later, you see on Facebook in the feed about an event or something. And when you tell somebody that, they're like, oh, I know, that's why I introduced you. I know, but you didn't tell me that. Right? You know, so yeah. It's really kind of interesting to know. So for me, one of the things that I do when I have a connection call with someone is at the end of the call when I'm asking them how I can serve and support them. I also ask them if they will send me an introduction blurb on what's a great lead-in for them. I'll already add my 2 cents to it, but I want to have a lead-in for them that sets them up for success when I do that. And then when I have those, I put them in a folder. So when I do introductions, I just have to copy and paste.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that's a great tip for our watchers because you should be doing something similar, building up, and it's all about networks, which we hear it all the time. It's about the people you connect with. It's about building relationships. And I think what Patty's just shared is probably one of the basic foundations of building a relationship. And I love what came out of that, Patty, was people don't even know who they're serving. And if you don't know who they're serving, how can you find anybody? It's
absolutely. You know, the next question I always like to ask people when I'm talking to them after I ask them who they serve, the next question I always ask them is, I know lots of people. This is what I say. I say, I know lots of people, Trish. If I was going to tell them about you, what would you want me to tell them? Because what happens now is you're going to tell me the value you bring to the marketplace instead of talking about the weather and this event and how good the food is and about your dog and all this kind of stuff. Not to say that when we build a relationship, I don't want to know those things too, but I'm trying to serve you right now. So if you tell me who you serve and the value you bring to the marketplace, I know a lot more that I can serve. And then I always follow up with the third question. And the third question is always, what differentiates you from everybody else that does what you do? So if I know who you serve, I know the value you bring to the marketplace, and I know what makes you different, I can ask you those 3 questions, and in 5 minutes, I know exactly what I need to do next. I know who I need to introduce you to. I know what the next steps are. And the only other question I need to know, which is always the last question I ask somebody, which is, what is your favorite social media platform and where do you hang out? And the reason I ask that is there's no reason that when you meet somebody or you have a connection that you need to go home and connect with them on every single social media platform. All you need to do is connect with them on the one that they just told you that they hang out. So you may spend your whole day on Facebook, but if they're on LinkedIn and you ask them and they say that, that's where you need to connect with them, where they are. So think about if you went home from an event or a networking lunch or had a conversation with somebody and you knew who they serve, what makes them different, the value they bring to the marketplace, and where they hang out, I could do all that in 7 minutes or less.
That's awesome. And people, that is probably, I have a lot of people come to me, my mentoring clients and people I meet, and they want to know, how do I start conversations at networking? I think Patty's just given you, in the space of about 4 sentences, how to start effective conversations at networking, valued conversations. We can all talk about the weather and that, but this, those 4 questions, really are giving you an effective return on your time at that network meeting. And for some of us who are introverts who find it difficult to start conversations, that is a really effective return for getting the courage up to go and talk to somebody. So thank you for sharing that. You take nothing else away, people, from our next 20 minutes of conversation. Take that away, because I think that is a big gold nugget for people. Absolutely big gold nugget. Did you find it easy to get where you got now, you know, as a podcast host, an international speaker, magazine publisher, event producer? What were some of the challenges you found on the way to get there?
I think that the biggest challenge for me, if I was honest, is making sure that I didn't take on too many things at the same time. Right? You know, a lot of times people say, well, how come you did the magazine before you did the podcast? And the reason I did is because I wanted to build up and get known and be seen first, right? I mean, we have almost 90,000 subscribers to the magazine, right? And we've been doing that for 3 years. I've only been doing the podcast for not even, like next month, it'll be a year. But I did it because now I already had, at that time when I did it, I had like 75,000 at that time. So it was really easy to promote the podcast when you already have 75,000 people who are reading your magazine. And it was the same name, which is also a nugget too, which is if you have things, keep to your brand and have things be consistent across all channels. There's a reason my events, my podcast, my magazine is all called Marketing Media Money, right? Because you want to be able to have them be able to cross promote, which is really, really important. I see people talk about this and then they have something with a different name and something else with a different name. Everybody doesn't know. They'll be like, oh, you must be the one that does this and you must be the one that does this. They're not going to find you on every single one. It's kind of like how some people like to talk on the phone. Some people like email. Some people like text. Same thing. Some people want to listen to podcasts. Some people want to, you know, read a magazine, right? So everybody is going to digest that information the way they want to. So you need to be across the board, but you don't have to do them all at one time. So that's what I think that I had to really keep myself in check, because I wanted to do everything all at the same time. I just knew, as my own client, I was my own marketing client, that it wasn't the smartest thing to do. And then I didn't do the event after that. And next year I'm going to do a book called Marketing Media Money. So it's always like, what is the next thing? But you know what else it is? It's about creating buzz. That's what leveraging media means. It means that you create buzz. You talk about this, and then that leads to this, and that leads to this. So it keeps everybody talking. If you do everything at the same time, they get excited, they talk about it, and then what are you going to do next week?
Absolutely. Awesome. And I like that, because one of my things and part of what the show's about and what I speak to people about is making it easy for your clients to find you, making it easy for your readers to find you. And that's what you're bringing out on that is you do need to be where they are, but not all at once. So you do need to be looking and planning, because some people do watch videos. Some people prefer audio and podcasts. Some people like to read. So if you are wanting to reach all of your clients, then you need to look at where is it easy for those particular people.
And where do they hang out? Because I have to tell you, I love Twitter, and there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't really spend that much time on Twitter. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I get 74% of my closed business comes from Twitter. It originates on Twitter. We move it to Facebook or LinkedIn after that, but it originates on Twitter. Twitter is, for me, the best lead generation tool ever.
Awesome. So just a couple of tips. How do you use the Twitter? Are you on there all the time? Do you have a special plan of focus? What is it that you do? Is it?
I'm on Twitter. I got to tell you, to be honest, I'm probably on Twitter 15 minutes a day, if that. Awesome. Because the one great thing about Twitter is since it's very short, concise information, you can schedule it. So I schedule it. I go on there 15 minutes a day, not all at the same time usually. To be totally honest, it's like whenever I'm waiting for something, I'm done with a call, I'm waiting for the Zoom to come up, when I'm going to do it, I just go in there and I engage. I always engage. So that is with me, and then I just schedule everything else. Anything that has a link can be scheduled, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that can be scheduled, but if it has a link, for sure, I'm scheduling it, and I'm just posting about what I think about it, and then that's when I come back and engage. So that's what's really great about Twitter, and Twitter has some really great things, like they have Twitter lists that you can use, which are really, really wonderful. I think that is probably the biggest underused thing that people don't know about Twitter or don't utilize. For example, there's private lists and there's public lists, and you want to use both, and there's a strategy for why you would use one versus the other, right? But if you have a list, like I have lists on mine that are podcast hosts, speakers, like all these things. So if I add you to that list, now you get to see all those other speakers too. So you want to be added to that list. But here's probably the biggest ninja behind the scenes tip that I'm going to tell you is, so say you have somebody you really love. They could be your competition, even though I don't believe in competition, but maybe they do what you do. Or you know somebody who serves your audience. You can literally go to their Twitter account, and there's a button that you can put on there, and all the lists that they actually have with all the people that they think is wonderful, you can go in there and see who all those people are and follow them too.
Awesome.
There's a lot of different ways. And not only that, but podcast hosts, a lot of time keep a list with all their guests, and you can go in there and say, oh, wow, they have a great podcast. I love it. Oh, good. Go look and see who all their guests are and invite them on your podcast. Or go look and see somebody who does what you do and find out all the podcasts they're on and go pitch yourself to them. So there's a lot of different tricks. I could give a whole training just on how to make money at Twitter.
Awesome. I love it. And maybe we might have to come back to that at some stage. You just sparked an idea for me. And I love that. That's what comes from being open to suggestions. People, Twitter is something I think a lot of people do not see the value of. We're not quite sure how to use it. So I think those are some great tips for being able to get out there on Twitter. And as Patty said, you don't have to spend a lot of time. It's using your time effectively and knowing how to use it. So that's something to think about. Coming on to podcasts, let's talk a little bit about podcasts. Getting onto a podcast as a guest, that is a pretty good way of getting out there, isn't it? What's the value and how's the best way of making that effective once you've been a guest?
Well, as a guest, one of the great things is it has a very low entry barrier, right? Because you only need three things. You need a mouth, a message, and a microphone. And the microphone could actually be in your phone. So those are the only three things you need. Everybody has those, right? Yeah. So that part is really easy. The key part is getting on podcasts that serve your people, because really there's two ways to make money. There's many ways to make money, but we'll talk about two specifically. One, you make revenue by people hiring you. Either they hire you for your service, they buy your product, A to B, revenue. But the bigger way that you make money is by opportunities. right? You know, you're on a podcast and then you meet somebody else, or you're at an event and they introduce you to somebody else. So that is really where it is. And I like to call those are revenue ops, OPP. And what OP stands for most people is opportunity. What it stands for me is other people's people. That is the name of the game. Other people's people. But it isn't just getting on a podcast. It is getting on a podcast that serves the same people as you in a different way, right? So for example, I'm in marketing. So if somebody is a graphic designer or a copywriter or a website person or a branding expert, all of those people are great partners for me. So if they have podcasts, I love being on their podcast. Or if somebody else serves entrepreneurs or the same people I do, those are great podcasts for me too. So I can come and give value, right? It's always about giving value, right? But you're in front of the right people. But there's a lot of things that people do ineffectively or wrong, as I like to say, or wrong, or they just don't do it in a way that would really help them. I could share a couple of those if you'd like. So,
yeah, do so.
So one of the things that I think is really important is if there's a podcast of somebody who's an influencer, or just they serve your people and you want to be on their podcast, there's a couple things that you should do. The first thing is go check them out first and make sure that you're not in conflict with what they do, because it's not going to help you if you go pitch to somebody that does exactly the same thing as you do. I have to tell you that happens to me about 3 times a week. Now, I love to have marketing people on my podcast because nobody does anything exactly the same way, and marketing is a big umbrella. But if you're going to pitch to somebody who does what you do, at least have a different perspective or a twist when you're coming to them with the story. The second thing that you really need to do is before you pitch somebody, go listen to their podcast. Find out what their format is. Check out their podcast, right? And then rate it and review it. Leave them a review. Listen to it. So when you pitch them and you say, oh, I listened to episode 54 with XYZ and I loved where you talked about this, so they know you really did, and it was so good I left you a 5-star review, you have a lot better chance of getting them to have you on their podcast. And then the third thing that I do this as a podcast host, and I do it as a podcast guest, so now you're going to know, you got to get on a secret, is that when you're done as a guest or as a host, how I make myself stand out is that when I'm done, I go to LinkedIn and I leave them a recommendation on LinkedIn, whether I'm the host or the guest. It was so great to be on your podcast. I love, you're a great interviewer, whatever the case may be. And if they have a business page, I leave them a 5-star rating on their business page.
Awesome.
And then they get notified of that. And what do you think happens when they get this notification that says, oh, Patty Farmer left you a 5-star review. Would you, do you want to have it on your, profile because you get to approve them? Mm-hmm. And when they get that, I do it to serve them. But I will tell you probably better than 80%, then they come back and leave me one too, right? It's all give first, right? But it makes you stand out, and pretty soon the podcast world isn't that big. I mean, it's big, but the bottom line is when podcasters talk to other podcasters, it's like, you know what? This girl was on my podcast, and when I got done, before the day was over, she left me a 5-star review, and she'd done this and she did that. They're going to be like, oh, I want to have her on my podcast, right? So it's like, what can you do differently that really makes you stand out? Because I'm going to tell you, being on somebody's podcast and just getting on Facebook saying, oh, I'm excited because I was on such and such podcast, isn't promotion. It's not helping them. It's kind of like what I also like to say about social media is when people like something, but they don't leave a comment. Or they share your post, which is nice, right? That's wonderful. But they don't leave a comment saying, oh, I love this, I'm going to share it. So it did help you a little bit, but it would have helped you a lot more if they would have said that, right? And so I really feel like sometimes people just don't know how to really serve and promote others. But I have to tell you, the biggest revenue generator is knowing how to promote other people. And I say it all the time for my magazine. So I'll use it as an example. So for all the writers, there's always 15 writers in every issue. And how many times can they get on social media and say, read my article, read my article, read my article, right? They can only say it so many times. And I tell them all the time, here is what everybody else in this issue wrote about. Promote them. And they're like, well, why would I do that? because when they go to the magazine to read their article, your article's in that magazine too. All roads lead back to the same issue of the magazine, right? Not only that, but now they're happy with you. They're going to share it, right? They're going to thank you. And now people might say, oh, you wrote about this. Let me connect with you too. So you're getting in front of their people. And then the people who love them that share it, now they're sharing about you too, because you're in that magazine too. So think about everything that you do and think, how can I do it? Here's another thing that I do. So these are tips. I hope people are right. These are writer-downers. Yep. But when you are on a podcast, right, and the podcast host is promoting you, right, and you go and so say on Apple Podcasts, you're episode 62. So after I promote that, you know, and I spend my time and I set it up in my automation and I do all this to promote it, like 2 weeks later, here's what I do. I go back to where I was and I look and see who is the 2 people that were the episodes before me and who are the 2 people that were the episodes after me, because we're on the same page, right? We're not like on the next page and the next page. We're right there together, and I promote them if it's appropriate for my audience. I mean, sometimes it may not be, but if it's appropriate for my audience, I promote them, who I don't even know probably. But when I do and I give the link and they go there to find their episode, what are they going to see? My episode that's right next to it. So I got to tell you, there's a lot of ways to promote other people, and you're promoting yourself, but you're promoting somebody else first, and that's how you do it.
That is awesome. And people, there is so much gold here. If you're not taking these things down, replay the episode and keep replaying it until you get the words that Patty is sharing with you right now, because that is stuff that you can't get. People don't think about that, and it's a completely different way and perspective of coming to getting known, being seen, helping other people. It's the whole collaboration piece. It's all about not being you. It's about who you can serve and about them, and it's secret marketing ninja tactics, because exactly what she's using. Wanted to come back because one of the reasons why I did ask Patty on, you know, we've been connected a while, and I follow Patty a lot, and I have been in her magazine as well. But one of the things that I really was about a comment that Patty asked about the difference between liking and commenting. And that made a big impact to me, because it's something on social media, and we talk about get out on social media, like people, but there is a difference between just liking something that someone else is posting and commenting. I want to just delve a little bit more into that, because I think it's really important and follows on from what you've been saying about serving others for you to be getting out there.
Absolutely. So in the algorithm, which changes all the time, right? But in the algorithm, that conversation that we have is on Facebook. When you like something, that's great, but not that many people click on however many likes you have and look through all those people, right? You know, so it is nice that you do like something. But I have to tell you, the way Facebook works, even if you just put a happy face, you put true, you put preach, you put boom, I mean, like whatever one word you even want, how you help them just exponentially goes up in just that. If you're going to share something, well then say, this is so good, I'm going to share it with my audience, right? If you do share it, make sure you tag back the other person to let them know so they can come behind you also, right? But you really want to make sure that what you're doing. So one of the things that I don't know if people know this or not, and this is kind of a ninja tip, is that underneath every post on Facebook, every single one, you will see a time. It'll say, you know, 6 hours ago or 5 minutes ago, right under your name. What people don't realize is that time, that actually is a link. You can click on that time, and when you do, it actually opens up and in the browser at the top becomes a permanent link that will forever link back to that post. So let me tell you a couple ways this works for you, okay? The first way it works is when I'm sharing something for somebody. In my groups, I like to be able to say, don't just like their business page. Don't just like something, right? Pick something that they do. So what I like to teach people is when somebody says to you in like Facebook groups, right, in promo threads, they'll say, oh, share with us your Twitter link or your Facebook link or whatever. Don't just share the link. go to something you want them to share and click the time so you get the link to a specific post, because then when they share it, they're actually sharing that exact post. And if you do it and all those people go and do it, Facebook is like, wow, look at all this engagement you got on this post. So help somebody by, it's one extra 10 seconds that you can do. So that's the one way you can use it. Here's the other way you can use it. So say somebody has this, and if people watch my feed, I do it all the time. I'll say, oh, tell us about a podcast that you listen to. What's an episode that you listen to? What's a talk that you give? What's a TED Talk? Whatever the case may be. And I do that so that everybody just dumps all that stuff in the feed, right? They all tell me, oh, I love this and I love that, and here's mine and whatever, right? And they do that. But then you know what I do? Then I take my own link under that time and I save it under, I put it on a Word doc that I call Threads to Watch. And then what happens is 2 or 3 days later, when all that goes in there, then I go back whenever I have time. I click that link that takes me right back to it. And when I go back to it, I look at all those podcasts and I say, oh, which one of these should I pitch? Which one of these are good for me? Or if somebody says, oh, I'm looking to be introduced to somebody who does this, you want to save that link so that you can go back there and get that information. I have a whole Threads to Watch of all kinds of things that people are putting in that apply to me. And it's almost like they're actually helping me by telling me all these things for me, for my clients, for my friends, for my network. I'll look in there and that might not be right for me, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be perfect for whatever. And then I can actually say, oh, here was a link and now I have the link. And I can say, check out this thread. There's like 2 or 3 podcasts in there I think you should check out.
Awesome.
So it's simple. You just click one little link.
I think that's awesome. And it saves, that's really great because it saves going back, trying to find it down your page ages later, and then half the comments are hidden or you can't find it because it's disappeared off your page. So try and find that. I mean, you can use the search to find it. But by that time, you may have even forgotten what the whole thing was. And you come across
really,
yeah.
It's like free market research. Like whenever I want to know something like, oh, has anybody tried this tool or whatever the case may be, I literally will ask a question to my people and I just let them all fill up in it and tell me all this information. I'm gone for the day. I don't even see it. I come back. I have that thing. And then what I do, and here's another thing. I know we're kind of getting stuck on Facebook, but let me tell you another thing, as long as I'm helping. Let people to know. So say you ask a question or you share something on social media. And now you have a Zoom call, right, or something, and now you're on a call. Yeah. You come back and you look and you see that 12 people have commented. Here is what you do not want to do, which is what I see a lot of people do, but they just do it because they don't know. They'll go in there, now they have time, and they'll go thank all 12 people. You know, they'll just go in there, thank you, thank you, thank you. But what happens is as soon as you come back, engage, the time starts again for Facebook. So what you want to do is you want to go say thank you to 2 of them. And then you want to wait like a half an hour later, and then you could say thank you to 3 more of them. Never go thank them all at the same time, because every time you go back and thank a few more, it actually kind of starts the clock again. So it's better promotion, and more people will see your post if you don't do it all at once.
Awesome. I think those are some great tips, because I have a lot of my people ask me, look, I put a post out there and it doesn't seem to be getting any traction and that. And I think what you've just shared is some really great ways to keep getting that traction. And it also is, it's not always the first time you put the post up that it's going to get that traction. It will come later. Then you just have to keep going back and watching it. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do that. Awesome.
I will tell you while we're on this, here's something not to do. I always think it's as important to know what not to do as it is what to do. Yeah. One of the things that nobody should be doing, it's kind of my pet peeve even, is don't tag me if I'm not appropriate to the post. You know how, have you ever been in a post where somebody said you and 96 other people, and they put you in the post, doesn't have anything to do with you. They just want to use your name so they can get in front of your people, and then you get hit with all those notifications. You can turn that notification off. But the bottom line is I remove the tag. You can actually remove the tag too. But really that is not a good thing to do. If you're doing it for a reason, like when I tag my new issue of the magazine, I do tag everybody in the magazine, right? But I don't go tag all my friends and everybody I know just so they see I have the magazine out, right? You know, so there's appropriate ways to do things and inappropriate ways to do things. So it's kind of really important to know. And you can do those same things on LinkedIn. A lot of people don't realize that when they're used to tagging things, but when you post something on LinkedIn, so say you do like my quote of the day or a meme of some sort, it'll always say next. And then when it says next and you look at it and then it says post, in the time before you hit post, when it says next, if you click on the picture, you can tag anybody on it.
Awesome. So, because people seem to think LinkedIn is completely, it's got a different concept. I mean, and it does. It is more business to business than
Absolutely.
Facebook. However, the same with the tactics that you use on Facebook, you can use the similar sort of tactics on LinkedIn if you focus on that, if you want to get it out there.
You just have to know that it's a different channel, so you still have the same voice, but you have to use it differently for that, and you have to know that it's different. People who are on LinkedIn, they read it. Not everybody like engages. Doesn't mean they're not seeing it, but they engage differently. So you just have to know that. So you have to change what you say about the post for what is appropriate for that.
Absolutely. Okay. We could be going on for ages, but
we could.
Yeah. I wanted to get just a little bit before we go about your magazine. So just to give us a little bit of an idea. And maybe also, is it a good workplace for people to get into a magazine to get noticed?
It absolutely is, because for some of the reasons that I said earlier, which is that there's more than one person in there. Two, the person whose magazine it is absolutely going to be promoting it. It's some of the best social cred, and it doesn't go away. It has a permanent link. So if you've been in the magazine, any of my issues, even though the issue when it first comes out, it's the one, but everyone has a permanent link. So people can be promoting past issues forever. Right? You're always there, and it's really a good way to be able to do that. So whenever you can be on a guest blog or whenever you can be in a magazine, that's how you leverage media, and it literally makes you an authority. So it is a very, very good way to do it. And not only that, but when you're pitching, you know, to be on something, being able to say, oh, you know, like how people say, oh, here's my speaker this, or here's my media sheet. Oh, well, here's a podcast I've been on. Oh, here's a magazine I was in. Right? You know, all of those things help you, which is kind of why I do all those things, so I can help my clients and my network. I always want to be of service with all the assets that I have.
Awesome. And there's something exciting about your magazine coming up. Share it.
There is. So the next issue, we just had the last issue just came out 2 weeks ago. But the next issue that comes out in November is a special issue because it is a special edition for our 3rd anniversary. So that's really exciting. Right now we're hitting right close to 90,000 subscribers. I really am hoping by then that my goal is to hit 100,000 subscribers. So I'm really excited about that. And I just really love that it has been 3 years. The magazine is really a passion project for me in a way, because it's really a resource. And I always like to tell everybody, why do I do the magazine? People say, why do you do a magazine? And the reason I do is because I can't serve everybody. You know, sometimes people, like, you know, not everybody is your client, right? We have to know that not everybody is your client. So it's a way that I can serve my network, but also my magazine is really about what is working now. I vet every person who's in my magazine. I don't just put something out and say, oh, here, you can be in my magazine. Everybody is personally invited by me and vetted by me. And they have to be able to answer the question of what is your #1 marketing, media, money strategy. And you have to be able to share what is working for you right now. You know, a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't want to share. No, you have to be able to share what is working for you now, like the behind the scenes stuff. And so for me, this is really a great way. So every single issue is a resource for everybody. It's not about me. It's really about them. And so a lot of times it's really important to me. And I always say, connect to every one of those people. And then we have different ones every issue. If I've asked them to be in my magazine, believe me, it's because you need to know them. Like, so you should connect to them. And I think that is really important. And what's exciting about this anniversary is that next year in 2021, we're actually going to still have it as a PDF, but we're going to move it to an iOS and an Android model, and we will have it as an app, right? So they just have to go to www.marketingmediamoney.com. No and, just marketingmediamoney.com.
People, if you have even enjoyed one little bit, one little thing, and then I would say there'd be more than one, that Patty has shared with you in this session, you need to go and click on that link, because what she's been sharing, she also shares through the magazine. And what Patty has also said, She has absolute awesome experts who are sharing other things that are compatible. And so you need that. It's a resource that is absolutely for everybody in business. So I would urge you to go and click on that link and subscribe to that magazine. It's absolutely powerful in what you're doing. We could just speak for hours. There is so much more, and I'm probably going to have you back because
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, because what it came from is as I said, it's links. And as I said, Patty and I met up, and I've been following Patty for ages. And I just happened to see, I watched what she says, and there was a question she asked about and the difference between and one of the things was, I need to be interviewing myself. I think that was the words that you used. And I thought, well, I'll just have you on my web TV. You don't have to interview yourself. You've just given me an open invitation to ask you to come on to my show.
That was actually funny the way that happened, because when I said that, it's like, they're like, well, Patty, can't you answer that question? I'm like, I know, but I can't interview myself on my own podcast. And somebody said, well, you can. I said, well, I could, but I'd rather have I'd rather have an expert. And you and two other people all said, oh, we would love to have you on our podcast, right? So that's a perfect way. Let people know that you're open to that. Yeah. I actually put this little graphic out about every 6 weeks, and it's a little joke, and it says, I'm a great podcast guest, just saying, and people always laugh, but I have to tell you, every time I post, everybody laughs, but I always get at least 2 or 3 interviews out of it.
And I think that's one of the things that we really need to get over ourselves, people. If you don't put yourself out, and that's what Get Known, Be Seen is why I'm so passionate about it. Just ask. The worst that can happen is no one answers you, or no one asks you, or says no.
But the answer is no if you don't ask automatically, right? So what do you have to lose?
The best thing is someone's going to say, yes, yeah, oh, yeah, we'd love to have you. Or, yes, you can do that.
And if you do your work first, I mean, when I'm approaching people, I go look at their blogs, and I'm like, oh, I love this blog that you wrote about this. Like, do your work first, right? So that's how you get a yes.
Yeah. I mean, build the relationship. There's so many people now that are using Messenger for marketing, but they're using it like, oh, can I connect with you? Next thing before you even know who they are, boom,
right,
buy this, come to my event. And I'm thinking, no, I want to know who you are first. I want to know that you really want to know me, other than just, oh, you're a money bag that I can get. I want to know whether you care about who I am, what I'm doing, because 3/4 of the stuff is not relevant to me. I'm not interested in that. So let's be a little bit more building that relationship, because you're going to get better return on investment of your time by putting that in than just
the revenue is in the relationship. That's what I want to say. The revenue is always in the relationships that you build.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Patty, for being with us. Where can people connect with you? I know that they can go for that marketing media money, but where else can they connect with you to get some pearls?
They can either go to marketingmediamoney.com, or they can go to my website, pattyfarmer.com, and all my social media and everything is there. So either one will get them there.
Awesome. And
thank you.
Two top tips. I mean, you've given a lot. Just let's see if we can get it down to 2 top tips that we can leave people with.
I would say that my top tips really are, 1, that the only difference between a contact and a contract is the R, and that R stands for relationship. So make sure that you're out there building those relationships. So that's probably the one thing. And the other thing is, just remember that once you have those questions, that's great. But if nobody has ever had anybody come to them that way before, they may not know how to answer them. And what's going to happen is they're going to say, oh, you go first. So know the answers to the questions yourself so that you can be the example. So they're like, wow. And really you are going to elevate yourself. And it's a great way to get seen, get known.
Awesome. I love that. I love the fact that know your answers as well, because it's another opportunity. You ask those people, they're going to ask you back. So that's an opportunity. Thank you so much, Patty, for being with us. And people, the links to connect with Patty will be below here. So do go and have a look at those links. Please connect with her. She has a wealth of information to share with you. And as you've just heard, Patty is about serving others. So she's going to be there for you. She's going to be wanting to connect. So reach out and connect with her. People, you've been watching Get Known, Be Seen Web TV. I'm Trish Springsteen, your host. I'm Australia's leading expert in empowering introverts. I'm an international best-selling author, and I'm an international award-winning mentor. Most specifically, I'm here as a host for Get Known Be Seen Web TV. If you want to take those 60 seconds of insane courage and step up, just connect with me, put a comment below, just PM me and say, I'd love to be a guest, and I will contact you. If you're an expert who would like to share some information, do the same. Put a link below, comment, or PM me, contact me, and say, look, I've got some information I'd like to share. I would love to have a conversation with you. And most specifically, people who've been watching this, do not go away without pressing that subscribe button. You hit that subscribe button and you will always be notified when new episodes of Get Known Be Seen come up, and you will not miss any of the gold nuggets that my guests come, or any of the great things that the people coming on are sharing that they're doing. Until next time, absolutely be awesome and step out there, shine that light, because if you don't, you're going to make it very hard for your clients to find you. So don't do that. Until next time, bye for now. Thanks, Patty.
Bye-bye.